You can send me a link to it.
Yeah.
On the first day, on the first day, the universe came into existence with a big bang and rapidly started expanding. We have measured this rate of expansion, and working backwards, we figured out that the Big Bang happened about 10.5 billion years ago. The early universe was hot and dense and dark until about 100 million years later, on the fourth day, actually, when the first stars were formed. And these stars, they grew and they expanded and they collapsed and they exploded, and more stars reformed and they collapsed and they exploded. And this went on and on and on, creating every single element in the periodic table. And then about 10 billion years later, on day 2, a large cloud of gas and dust collapsed under its own gravity and created the solar system. The sun, the Earth, and all the planets were created about 4.5 billion years ago. Interesting fact number 1, the sun contains 99.86% of all the mass in the solar system. The Earth, all the planets and their moons, the asteroids, the rocky pseudo-planets, and the comets just make up just 0.14% of mass of the solar system. The young Earth was very hostile, with molten rock surface and thick, toxic atmosphere. But about 500 million years into the Earth's life came day 4. Day 3. Came day 3, when the Earth cooled and the first continents and oceans appeared, and organic molecules in the atmosphere turned into the very first signs of simple prokaryotic life. And we have found evidence of this life in the oldest rocks known to mankind here in Western Australia. These simple organisms were primarily archaea and bacteria. Now, these archaea and bacteria were the only organisms for over 2 billion years, and they survived to this date. In fact, every one of you has about 1 billion archaea in your gut, helping you digest your food and make you fart. Interesting fact number 2, if you took the mass of all the humans, all the animals, all the plants, all the fungi, and all the bacteria alive in the world right now, there would be roughly equivalent to the biomass of all the archaea in the world. And I bet you some of you didn't even realize that these things existed. About 1.7 billion years ago, on day 5, complex multicellular organisms evolved, and the diversity of life on Earth increased dramatically, especially during the Cambrian explosion. About 250 million years ago, dinosaurs became the dominant large apex animal species on Earth. But unfortunately, 65 million years ago, the dinosaurs, along with thousands of other large plant and animal, in fact, most plant and animal species, became extinct, probably due to the large meteorite impact in the Yucatan Peninsula in what is now Mexico. But that led to the rise of mammals, tiny little shrew-like and mouse-like animals, which evolved and grew bigger and created more species and finally conquered the entire world. The great apes came around in about 6 million years ago, while we humans first started walking the Earth on day 6, to about 200,000 years ago. Let me put that timeline for you in the perspective of 1 year, with the creation of Earth at day 1 and today as the final day. The first single-cell life evolved on Earth on the 8th of February.
Real.
The first multicellular life form appeared on Earth on the 16th of August. The dinosaurs first started walking the Earth on the 11th of December and lived just 2 weeks. The first recognizable modern human, it developed in Africa at 11:35 p.m. on New Year's Eve. And the Bible was written just 1 minute before the countdown to the new year, which Manuka apparently finds fascinatingly funny. We think we are the apex, the pinnacle of creation or evolution, but life on Earth will actually go on for another 5 billion years. If we annihilate ourselves in the next 100 or so years, which is one, quite likely, and two, possibly the best scenario for life on Earth. If we annihilate ourselves through either catastrophic climate change, through a global pandemic due to antibiotic-resistant bacteria, or perhaps nuclear or other technological accident, some other species will take up our space in the echelon and become the dominant species on Earth, perhaps 100,000 years from now, perhaps 100 million years from now. Maybe one day crocodiles will be studying the universe and digging up remnants of a long extinct ape-like civilization. If we somehow manage to avoid killing ourselves, we could perhaps become transhumans, technologically enhanced humans with superior vision, incredible strength, nanobots running through our body, repairing any damage, killing cancer and any other viruses and bacteria that are killing us, enhancing our lifespans. Even today, our lifespans are the longest that humans have ever lived since we started farming about 12,000 years ago. Scientists, anthropologists believe that the first human being to reach the age of 150 has already been born. And it won't be long before humans regularly reach the age of 200 or more. Unfortunately, in the process, we may end up, if we continue the way we're going, destroying most other species alive in this world right now. And if that happens, we may have to become virtual humans, living in a simulated world in a giant supercomputer powered by the sun, which, by the way, many scientists believe we already do. Whether we survive or not, life on Earth will continue for another 5 billion years until the sun becomes a red giant and swallows up the Earth and makes life on Earth impossible. So whatever life survives, we've got plenty of time to learn to explore the galaxy and the rest of the universe. Unfortunately, if our models of the universe are correct, the universe will keep expanding so fast that in 2 trillion years, we will not be able to see stars from other galaxies and will be contained to our own galaxy. 100 trillion years from now, which is a lot of years, the last star will die, and so will the light. And so will the possibility of all life as we know it. So let me shrink that timescale again to 1 year, with day 0 being the birth of the universe and the final day being the end of all stars. The Earth was created 52 seconds into the 1st of January. Right now we are at 1 minute and 14, and the Earth will cease to exist at 1 minute and 45 seconds. But that's okay, because we can continue exploring the entire universe until the 8th of January. And for the rest of that year, we'll be stuck within our own galaxy. Fun fact number 3, I omitted number 2. Fun fact number 3. After that, the universe will be simply containing black holes and remnants of decaying particles. But it will continue expanding at this scale of 1 year for 1 trillion, trillion years. So where do you think is our place in the universe now? I hope you found this presentation insightful and interesting, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have. Brad.
Hey, Tom, do you think it's a good idea for humans to colonize another planet in case things go south on Earth?
So Brad's asked the question about whether we should be colonizing other planets. I think that it's inevitable that we will attempt. Whether we will succeed is a completely different matter. So the question is, should we at least attempt? I think most space agencies, at least very much NASA and the European Space Agency, have protocols in place to ensure that for the time being, we do not contaminate the other environment with our own unknown bacteria. Obviously, if we start colonizing it, that will be inevitable. Hopefully, what I hope will happen is that we will thoroughly ensure that there is no current life on the planet we try to inhabit and colonize, although I doubt that will happen. Daniel.
So from my memory, the numbers that you were talking about, days are from the Bible. Is there a specific reason why you choose to do that comparison?
I knew somebody would ask this question, but not in this particular form. So Daniel asked me that I quoted the days from the Bible, and why did I choose those specific, choose to incorporate it? For a couple of reasons. I do believe that the Bible was written by very, very wise men, or at least most of the Bible was written by very, very wise men. It is incredible how the Genesis story of creation very well resembles the actual creation of the universe. Sometimes makes you wonder whether we weren't visited 12,000 years ago by some superior intelligence and given wisdom in the way we would understand it on that day. But that's just my own particular musings and wonderings. But I wanted to show people that for those who only believe in the Bible, to show them that the belief in evolution and star formation is not against the Bible. And those who do not believe in the Bible and only believe in science, to show that the Bible isn't necessarily against science either, that both can be believed at the same time. Dorothy.
Thank you, Tom. In my love for life, how can you support the thinking that we are here for a purpose, and that despite whatever is happening, despite the facts, the science, we can still try to live longer and be happy? Yeah.
It's a form of the teleological argument, isn't it? The purpose of life. That really is the foray of religion, not really of science, because science doesn't believe we have a purpose to life. However, many humans do need their own personal purpose to lead a happy life. And I do believe that we all each need to find that purpose within ourselves. That's not necessarily on scientific grounds, that's on human anthropological and psychological grounds, that we do need to find our reason for existence. But I wanted to show through this presentation just how on different timescales, how fleeting human life is, and not our individual human life, but the life of humanity as we know it currently. It's so tiny. And yet, when we do find that purpose in life, it can be life-changing for us as well as the people around us. Alan.
If, in fact, our species will die out and be succeeded by some other species, maybe more intelligent, what message would you feel we need to leave for that next step in evolution?
Alan, I suspect that if an extinct form of toad left a message for us, we wouldn't understand it. So chances are that whatever message we leave, whether it's for whatever species replaces us or whatever species might be out there in the universe, they won't be able to understand any of it. And it will be just either gibberish, or it will be so basic, it's like somebody teaching us what 1 + 1 is.
So,
Sorry. Manuka.
yes, my question is, you said one day crocodiles might be ruling over and be digging through the remnants of the human species. Why do you think the crocodiles will, and why didn't you pick any other species?
Minuk asked why I picked crocodiles as the next extant superior species, because if I had picked another species like ants, you would say, why ants?
Yeah, why?
We do not know. I mean, dinosaurs were alive on this earth for over 180 million years. And they didn't really evolve bigger brains the way we did. They ate meat like we did. They ate veggies like we did. We're not sure why humans evolved to the place where we are now. And we don't know whether that will happen again or how far it will go and who it will be. And Ron.
Hey, I just want to make an observation with all of your take tonight is the short history of life. Now, you talk about how a mentor has continued and it's going and I want to have a whole lot more than we have a lot of humans around the place. How about life? Where the life comes from? People need where the life comes from and say, one and whatever, and that's put up in that atmosphere. I don't believe that. Right.
So Ron's asked a question about really about the origins of life itself. There are two camps. One says that there is panspermia, which means life is everywhere. Still doesn't answer where the life itself first came from. So life on Earth may have been seeded from a comet or from another planet or from somewhere else, but still doesn't explain abiogenesis, actually the formation of life from organic molecules which are non-alive. And that is a question that unfortunately no one can address at the moment. Well, okay, so the argument is that God is the ultimate origin of all life and everything that exists in the universe. Who created God? If God existed forever, the same argument can be said, well, life existed forever. So it's a circular argument that I really don't want to get into because both answers are just as satisfactory if you believe them. Absolutely, of course. During the late bombardment, so much material fell down to Earth that we don't see the effects on Earth anymore. But if you just look at the Moon and the Mars, it's pocketed with craters. There's no wind, there's no atmosphere on the Moon, so it's easy for us to see where those craters have hit. And by the way, they will be eroded. The human footprint that was left by the crew of Apollo 12, that will be still visible in about 100 million years' time, but shortly after that, it will actually eventually erode due to space wind and other such things. But more specifically about your question about life transferring to Earth, well, that's simply a version of panspermia, that life is everywhere and it freely travels around the cosmos and is just seeded everywhere. I was trying to illustrate in my presentation that on the scale of the Earth, life took place really quickly, within 500 million years, which is nothing compared to how old the universe will be, which suggests that there is a purpose and a creator, or at the very least that life is a distinct likelihood of evolution of inorganic matter. On the other hand, to show that the universe will go on existing for so much longer after life is not even possible the way we know it, shows that if the universe was prepared for life, was made for life, then a lot of it's going to be empty of life. And the question is why?
Can I ask one last question?
One last question, Manuka.
What is the likelihood of Earth being colonized before we decide to colonize something somewhere else?
What is the likelihood of Earth being colonized before we decide to leave Earth? Have you heard of the Drake equation?
No.
It's a thought experiment where you multiply the likelihood of the life of there being a habitable planet times the likelihood of the life that life will evolve, times the likelihood that that life will become intelligent, times the likelihood that that life will be spacefaring. In short, the distances in our galaxies are so huge that the very nearest star is 4.5 light years away. So traveling at the speed of light will take you 4 years. Unless we invent hyper time travel, hyper light speed travel, it's unlikely they will ever anywhere meet any life, any organic life. Thank you very much.